This whole series is about having faith, even if God doesn't answer our prayers the way we want them to be answered, the way we begged God to answer them. In our world, that seems to be more common than anything else. There's a man named Bart Millard. Bart wrote a famous song called "I Can Only Imagine." He wrote that song because of a struggle he had early in his life. His mother abandoned him. His dad struggled with alcohol. The two of them fought constantly and consistently. His dad wanted him to play football. He didn't like football. He wanted to sing. And eventually their relationship parted. It just got further and further apart. Eventually his father came to Christ and did a total 180. And before his dying day, he and his son Bart made up, reconciled with each other. After that song was written, he became a famous guy, Bart Millard and Mercy Me. Time passed, and Bart married. He had a son. His son's name was Sam, and this child was born with type 1 diabetes. And it was a serious diabetic diagnosis. He was in and out of the hospital multiple times with multiple scares that he was not going to make it. And Bart struggled with his son's diagnosis, and he wanted to protect him and care for him. He wanted him to be okay. He begged God to heal, and it just wasn't working out. Bart later met a fella who was struggling with a terminal diagnosis of cancer. And the two of them entered this relationship together of singing and songwriting, and out of that came a song called "Even If." Part of the inspiration was it from the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, where they said to the king, "Our God is able to deliver us, but if He doesn't, we will never bow before you. We will bow before Him only." And that has been a struggle for many of us through the years, has it not? When we're facing the unspeakable, when we're facing it's not going to change, nothing's going to happen, and then the thing that we feared most does happen. And in those moments, we may feel this way: God, where were you at? And now it's just too late. There's nothing else that can be done. But today I want to share with you a message of hope. Because even if God doesn't answer our prayer the way we begged Him to and cried out for Him to, He is still our God. And even if He doesn't answer that prayer, and even if we feel that it's too late, God is still our God. And so Jeremiah 32, verse 27 reads this way: "Behold, I am the Lord, the God of all flesh. Is anything too difficult for me?" There's nothing too difficult for God. And see, that's part of our problem at times. Because we say, "God, you created everything. You speak and things happen. Why won't you speak this now? Why won't you do what I'm asking you to do?" But like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, there are times God chooses not to answer our prayers the way we ask them to be prayed. And it's a journey we have to go through. Some of you have been through those journeys. Some of you will go through this journey. And that doesn't make it fun, does it? No, of course not. But here's the question I ask you today. When you believe that it's too late, when that moment has come and gone, is your faith shattered, destroyed? Do you look up to heaven and say, "God, you don't love me. God, you don't care. Nothing changed in my life. I don't know who you are, and I don't know." And you ask all of these questions. I want you to know today, even if it's too late as you define it, God is still with you. So let's look at this story. It's a very familiar story. I'm only going to read 2 verses, and then I'm going to go back and fill in some gaps for you. John 11, I'm going to read verses 21 and 22. They read this way. Martha then said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. I'm going to read that one again. Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And then she added, even now I know that whatever you ask of God, God will give you. What a strange statement in the midst of her grief. Lazarus, her brother, has died. And she said to Jesus, if you had been here, he wouldn't have died. And then she quickly added, but even now I know that whatever you ask, God will do it. Strange. Maybe you've been there before. See, Lazarus, Martha, and Mary were very good friends of Jesus. They were close-knit. Jesus spent time at their home multiple times. He spent the night with him along with his disciples. They had meals there. They had Bible studies there. They were a close-knit group. And in the midst of this closeness, and as Jesus was traveling throughout the region, sharing the gospel, Lazarus became deathly ill. And Martha sent a message to Jesus with simple words, your friend is sick. And she knew this sickness was a serious sickness, and so she said, Jesus, you're our good friend, and we know you have the power to heal, so I'm sending you a message asking you to come to us and bring healing. Jesus saw the message. All of this is in the first part of chapter 11. Jesus saw the message and looked at his disciples and basically said this to them, our friend Lazarus is sick. And then he delayed. He didn't go. See, we read the story and we think, Jesus, why didn't you go? We could have asked the question also this way, Jesus, you could have spoken the word from where you were, Lazarus be healed, and he would have been healed. But Jesus, in the story, delayed. And when he knew Lazarus had died, he told his disciples, Lazarus is sleeping. He meant dead. And we're going to go there and wake him up. The disciples said, you don't need to do that. They said that because they knew that the Pharisees, the religious leaders of the day, wanted Jesus dead. And they feared for Jesus' life, but they also feared for their own lives. They said, no, you don't need to go. We don't need to go. If he's asleep, he'll wake up. Jesus told them plainly, he's not sleeping, he's dead. And then they were like, well, why do we need to go? There's nothing you can do. 4 days passed. Jesus showed up at Lazarus' home. And while he was almost there, Martha ran out to meet him, and that's where she said these words, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And they had a lengthy conversation, Jesus and Martha. You see, Martha believed it was too late because it had been now 4 days since his death. 4 days. I'm not a scientist, nor am I a doctor, nor a nurse, but I do understand what happens to a body after death, especially in that climate. His body is swollen. His flesh is breaking down. His organs are breaking down. There's a stench in the air in spite of all of the the balms and the ointments that were placed and rubbed and wrapped around his body. And Jesus shows up and questions Martha. And he says this to her in verse number 23. Martha, your brother will rise again. Any of us who are followers of Jesus, we understand that to mean in the resurrection, meaning soon. And then Martha said, I know that. He'll arise on the last day. And then Jesus added some words. Don't miss this. It's in verse number 25. Jesus said to her, Martha, I am the resurrection. I am the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me shall never die. Never die. Do you believe this? He was challenging her. Even though, Martha, you think it's too late, even though you believe my delay made no difference, your brother's alive because not of what he has done, but because of who I am. I am the resurrection and the life, he said. You see, God is working in ways in my life and all of your lives that none of us can see. God is working in the background. God is working in the lives of others. God is working in the unseen. God is working, and He is making things happen and move that none of us can see. You see, it's never too late. Never too late. Now, in this conversation, like Martha, we look at time from our perspective. Do we not? We see it from our perspective. We don't see eternity on this side of heaven. See, time is basically an obstacle for us. And for some of us, it seems too big. Time is running. It's like we have an hourglass and we know that it has been turned over and we see the sand dripping from the top to the bottom and we know that it's getting smaller and smaller and time's about to run out. That's the way we look at life often. And we think the end is near. We're coming close to the point of no return where we can't go back. That's the way we see it. But God doesn't see it that way. Time is no boundary for our Creator. For Him, He created me and you and all other people to be eternal. Whether you are born again or not born again, we are all eternal creatures. And God breathed into all of us the breath of life. He created us in His image. He wants us to spend eternity with Him in heaven. But that decision, God leaves up to us. And so when they're having this conversation, Martha says, it's just too late, it's too late, it's too late. And when Jesus said, where has He been laid? She points out, it's too late. Time has passed. You've done some amazing miracles, Jesus, but you don't understand. You can't change what has happened. It is impossible. Jesus is not bound to time. He is not bound to the physical. The time may be past, but God is still working in ways we cannot see. So when you believe it's too late, I want you to know something today. Death nor time is an obstacle to Jesus. It's not. God is not bound by time. There is no obstacle that is bigger than He. He He is the one that can change and do all things. In verse 43 of this chapter, it says, "And when he thus had spoken, he cried with a loud voice, 'Lazarus, come forth.'" What an amazing, powerful statement. 3 words. Lazarus, he called him by name. And then he said, "Come forth." And in that moment, Lazarus walked out of that tomb. Jesus did the impossible that day. He foreshadowed what was to come. Meaning, when Jesus got the message and his disciples protested and said, "We don't need to go there, they want to kill you," Jesus said, "I'm going to do something that defies nature. I'm going to do something that will reveal the glory of God. I'm going to do something in this moment that no one has ever seen. I'm going to show the world of this day and the world in the future that I am the Christ, the Son of the living God. I am the resurrection and I am the life." You see, we had this story years after it happened. Could you imagine living in that day? Jesus, the prophet, Jesus, the healer, Jesus, the one who performed miracle after miracle after miracle. He arrives in this little town of Bethany with his good friend dead in the grave for 4 days. And he says, "Roll the stone away." Everybody is saying that it's too late, it's over. I want you to know it's not over. It's not over. Oh, you're going to see something today you ain't never seen before. And when they rolled the stone away and Jesus uttered those words and Lazarus came out, there was a revival. Would not it have been a revival in my life and yours too? Would you not have said, "He's not human. This is impossible"? The town was coming to Jesus. People were coming from Jerusalem and other places to say, "Jesus, you are the Messiah." It was such a revival. The Pharisees made a decision. He's got to die. We've got to make sure this Jesus dies quickly. They even said Lazarus has got to die again. That's the way evil thinks. Jesus showed us on that day that death is not an obstacle to Jesus. It showed us that Jesus is the resurrection and the life. They did exactly what they said when it came to Jesus Himself. They trumped up the charges and nailed Him to a cross, and He died on that cross. He was buried dead. And they thought they won. They thought they won. Even the disciples themselves, Peter and others, thought, well, it's over now. We're next. We may not make it either. See, the resurrection was more than just an event. It's a person. It's a person, Jesus. All throughout Scripture, we read story after story after story of those who said, God, you are the creator of all, and I will worship and honor you no matter what. And God blessed them greatly. When you, me, wonder, God, is it too late? Please know this, it's never too late. Because the resurrection, the hope that Jesus came when He was buried in His own tomb, He rose the third day. Jesus' resurrection, though, changed things forever. because He defeated death. He defeated the grave. He is the reason we can live in heaven for eternity. There's no other way. Lazarus did die again. Many believe that he died as a martyr years later. There's no proof or evidence of no historical fact, but Lazarus died a second time. Can you imagine dying once for 4 days to be called back to live on this earth again? I think Lazarus would have been going, I've seen something no one has ever seen. I know that he willingly gave it the second time and said, don't bring me back no more, not to this place. When we think about being too late, the miracle of Jesus' resurrection sealed the deal for all of eternity. And you and I have a hope unlike any others. I have a hope one day that when I breathe my last, that my spirit, my soul, will be with the Lord in heaven for eternity. And one day the Lord's going to give me a new physical, spiritual body. People wonder about that. What's it going to look like? Are we going to be young, wrinkle-free? Don't worry about such stuff. Just know this. When you're going through something that seems insurmountable, when it's bigger than you, when you're begging God to do something, and then the day comes when it's too late, stick this in your mind. It's not over. It's not over. It's just beginning. Jesus is still on His throne. Jesus is still giving life. There is still hope. There is still joy. There is still peace. You see, it's never too late. Can you imagine Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego on that day, looking at the old king, him saying, if y'all just bow down and worship me, we'll just forget this thing ever happened. And they said, no, we're not going to do that because you're not our God. We will go to that fiery furnace, and if it costs us our life, then so be it. We know that God is able, but if He chooses not to save us, we're okay with that too. We would rather die than bow down and worship You. That's courage. That is faith. That is determination. Think of David. When Samuel anointed David to be the future king of Israel, and David waited some 25 years before he actually became the king, he persevered and he struggled, and there were moments he wondered, God, why is all of this happening to me? Why all of these troubles? God was working on his character still. A man after God's own heart needed character improvement. When God tapped Abraham on the shoulder and said, Abraham, I'm going to make you the father of a great nation. Now I want you to take your wife and go to a land that I will show you. And when you get there, I will tell you you've arrived, and I will give you a son, even though you're an old man now and your wife is an old woman. It will happen. And as they wondered, they had moments of great success and moments of great failure, and they questioned sometimes, God, it's just too late. My wife's too old. I'm old. And on they went, but they said, no, we got to believe. We've got to believe. We've got to believe. It's never too late. And when Sarah was 75, she conceived. I don't know if there are any 75-year-old women here today, but can you imagine conceiving in your old age? I don't want a baby at that age. I'm too tired just thinking about it. It's never too late. Even if you feel it's too late, it's not too late. Don't let life and your prayers that were not answered the way you thought they should be answered, don't let that shatter your faith. Don't let it shatter your faith. Pick yourself up and say, Jesus, I don't understand it. It doesn't feel right to me. I wish this was different, but I'm going to trust you completely. And I will keep following you. And I'll keep serving you. Because one day, all of this will be behind me. And I will be in a place that will be perfect. So never give up. Never quit. Even if you feel it's too late. God has a perfect plan for you. So today I ask you this question. Are you going to give up on Jesus when your prayers go unanswered? When you look up to heaven and say, God, you must not be real because what I asked for did not happen. Don't give up. Jesus loves you more than you understand. And because Jesus is the resurrection and the life, that is the hope we need, both now and for eternity.